Good evening, or good morning, or good afternoon, whenever you listen to the share. We're holding now a Revi, the fourth day, Lech L'cha, Perek Yudalith, brand new Perek, Pasuk Aleph. In today's Chumash, today's Chitas, it's going to discuss that after Lot left Avram and resided in Sodom, he became a captive. He became a captive from the four Malachim, that there was a fight between the four kings and the five kings, as we're going to learn by Arichos. And when Avram Avinu found out that his nephew, Lot, was captured, he went to war, he armed himself with weapons, and he rescued Lot. Pasuk says, Vayihi bimei Amraphel. It was in the days of the king Amraphel, in the days of the four kings. So there was a king Amraphel, as we were going to learn, this is Nimrod. Melech Shinar, Amraphel Nimrod was the king of Shinar, which Shinar is Bavel. Aryech Melech Elosar, the king of Aryech, the king of Elosar. Kedela'imer Melech Elohim, and Kedela'imer, he was the king of Elam, and Sidol Melech Goyim, and Sidol, the king of Goyim. So there was these four kings, as we're going to learn exactly why they were named these names. So you have, number one, Amraphel, which is Nimrod, the king of Bavel, Aryech, the king of Elosar, Kedela'imer was the king of Elam, and Sidol Melech Goyim. These are the four kings. Now Rashi says, Amraphel, who's Amraphel? Who Nimrod? This is Nimrod. So why are we calling him Amraphel? Because he told Avram Avinu, go into the fire. As we know the whole story there, Avram Avinu believed in only in the Eibishter, and he smashed all his father's idols, and his father told on him, and Nimrod casted him into the fire, and the big miracle happened, and Avram Avinu was saved. Nothing happened to him. So Amraphel, what's Amraphel? It's Omar Poil, he told to jump in, to go into the furnace to Avram Avinu. Now, Melech Goyim, Rashi says, what does it mean, Melech Goyim, the king of Goyim? So Rashi, Mokim Yeshishmoy Goyim. This is a place called Goyim. In other words, not that he's the Melech of a lot of Goyim, a lot of nations, but rather it's a place called Goyim. Al Shem, Shiniskabtsu, Shama, Al Shem, Rashi says, Al Shem Shiniskabtsu, Shama, Mikama Umes Umekemis, is because this is a place, he was a king of a place that had a lot of people there, different people there. Mikama Umes Umekemis Vimlichu Ishaleim Ushmeitido. So there was a place called Goyim because people from many nations and places assembled there, and they crowned there a man by the name of Sidol. Okay, so now what happened over here? Now, so the question is like this. There's a machlekes in the Gemara. We're saying Amraphel is Nimrod, who was the king of Bavel. So was his name Nimrod and they nicknamed him Amraphel, or was his name Amraphel and they nicknamed him Nimrod? So that's a machlekes in Erevin, Daf Nun Gimel and Aleph, machlekes Rav and Shmuel, and the Pashtas Rashi learns that Amraphel his real name was Nimrod, and they just called him Amraphel because he told Avram, Omar Peil. Now, what happened? Pasuk says, Osu Milchama, they made a war. They waged war. They waged war with who? As Bera Melech Sodom, with Bera, who was the king of Sodom, as Birsha Melech Amera, and with Birsha, the king of Amera, Shinov Melech Adama, with Adama, Shinov, the king of Adama, the Shem Aver Melech Tzvayim, and Shem Aver, the king of Tzvayim, Umelech Bela Hitzayah, and also with the king of Bela, which is known as Tzayar, which is known as Tzayar. So these are the five kings. Again, you have Bera, Birsha, Shinov, Shem Aver, and Bela. These are the five kings. Now, Rashi says they called him also Muhammad Bera. Why was he called Bera? So Bera is Beis Ra. He was bad in two ways. Ra la Shamayim, Vera la Brias. He was evil to heaven and evil to people. Beis Ra. Birsha, he was Birsha. Shinis ala beresha, he was elevated in his wickedness. So, in other words, he was constantly wicked, and he just elevated himself with more and more evil. Shinav, what's Shinav? Shinav is Soine Aviv Shabashamayim. So Shinav means Soine of, he hated the Ebershter in heaven. Shem Aver, why was he called Shem Aver? Some Aver La'of Velik Bais Velimred Bakadosh Baruch Hu. He made Aver wings to fly and to Kivyochel spring about and rebel against Hashem. Now, Pasuk says, Pasuk Gimel, Kol Eile Chavru El Emek Hasidim. All these joined in the valley of Sidim, Hu Yam HaMelech, which is Yam HaMelech. Now, after the four kings were victorious against the 5 kings, so or I guess after they made a pact, so the 9 kings came together in a place called Sidim, which eventually, as we're going to see in Rashi, this is Yam HaMelech, and they made peace between them. And they said that Kedla Omer is going to be the head of everybody. So that's what Rashi says. Emek Hasidim Kach Shmoi. This is the name Al Shem Shehoyu Boisodis Harbor. The reason why it's called Emek Hasidim is because there are many fields there. Hu Yam HaMelech, this is Yam HaMelech. Rashi says, L'achas man nimshach hayam l'teichev v'nasi Yam HaMelech. What does it mean it's Yam HaMelech? There's no Yam HaMelech there then. So Rashi says that the sea flowed into it and became Yam HaMelech. The Medrash Haggadah says, Shinizbaku hatzurim svivesev v'nimshachu yo'edim l'teichev. The Medrash says that the rocks around it split and rivers flowed into it. Now, the pasuk says, "Shteim esrei shana avdus kedel omer." These kings, for 12 years, they served kedel omer. U'shleish esrei shana maradu, and for 13 years they rebelled. Rashi says, "Chamisha malachim halalu es kedel omer." For 12 years, these 5 kings served kedel omer. Now, u'ba'arba esrei shana ba kedel omer, and in the 14th year of the rebellion against kedel omer, v'hamalachim asheritay, and the kings who were with him. Ayaku es Rephaim b'ashtaris Kanaim. They struck the kings in Rephaim in Ashtaris Kanaim. V'sazuzim b'hem, and the Zuzim in V'sa'emim, and the Emim b'shvei kiryosayim in shvei kiryosayim. Rashi says, u'arba shana. The Mirdan, what does it mean? In the 14th year of the rebellion, since the rebellion was against Kedel Omer, was the ruler, and this matter concerned him more, so he, like Kivyochel, like the person who carries the heaviest, the heavy part, he does the heavy lifting, so he bared most of the responsibility, and he took it the most serious. These are the 3 kings. Hazuzim, Him, Zamzumim, these are the Zamzumim. Now, the pasuk says in Vav, and Vesachori, Baharorim, Seir, and the Chayri in the Mount Seir, Ad El Paran, until the plains of Paran, Asher, Ala Midbar, which is alongside the desert. So Rashi, Baharorim, Bahar Shalahem, this is their mountain. El Paran, Rashi says, Ketargumi Mishar, as the Targum says, it means the plain. V'imar Anish Ein El Lash Mishar. Rashi says El does not mean plain. El Mishar Shal Paran El Shmai. Rather, the plain of Paran was named El. V'el Shal Mamre Eleni Shmai, and the name Mamre was named Eleni. Shal Yardim Kikar Shmai. Yardim was Kikar. V'shal Shitim of El Shmai. Aval Shitim V'chein Bal God Bal Shmai. However, now B'chula Mitragumim Mishar, they are all translated Mishar as plain, not plain. Plain, plain. The Kula Mitragumim Mishar. As we said, V'chol echad shmei alav, each one has a name accompanying it. Al hamidbar, what does it mean? Along al hamidbar, on the midbar? Eitz al hamidbar, not the midbar, not to go up to the midbar, but rather it means alongside the desert. As it says, alongside alav, the tribe of Menashe, which means next to it. Now, pasuk Zayin, pasuk says, Vayeshuvu vayavayu el ein mishpat. So the pasuk says that they returned and came to Ein Mishpat, he Kaddish, which is Kaddish. Vayaku es kol steha Amaleki, and they smote the entire field of Amaleki. The Games Ameri, and also the Ameri Hayesha Bechatzatzin Tamar, and the Amiroi who dwelt in Chatzatzin Tamar. Rashi says, Ein Mishpat hi Kaddish. Now, what does it mean, Ein Mishpat, which is Kaddish? Why is it called Ein Mishpat? So Rashi says, Al Shem HaOsid. This is called Al Shem of the future. That eventually Moshe and Aaron were destined to be judged there concerning that the Eibishter told them to speak to the rock, and instead they hit the rock. So this is when Hashem said they're not going to be allowed into Eretz Yisrael. Ein Mishpat. The Onkelos, however, translates it to the simple meaning, this was the place that people of the town, of the province would come, and it was a courthouse. They would assemble for litigation. Stay Amaleki, the field of Amaleki. Amalek was not yet born. Nikra Shem HaOsid, and he's called in the future sense, because what B'chatzotz and Tamar, who Ein Gedi, this is Ein Gedi, Mikra Amalek, B'divrei Yamim Be'Yeshafat, there's explicit pasuk in Divrei Yamim in Yeshafat. Pasuk Ches, Vayetze, the pasuk says, Vayetze Melech Sodom, Melech Amira, Melech Adma, Melech Tzavoim, Melech Bela Yitzer, Vayarku Itam Melchama Be'emek Hasidim. So the kings of Sodom, and the king of Amira, and the Melech Adma, and Melech Tzavoim, and Melech Bela, and what do? They came forth and they engaged them in battle in the valley of Siddim. As Kidloimer Melech Elam, Besidim Melech Goyim, V'amrafa Melech Shina, V'ayich Melech Elasar, Ba'arba Melachim, V'sachamisha. So now started the war between the 5 and the 4 kings. Rashi says, why is it telling us these details? And nevertheless, the 4 kings who were less than the 5 kings were victorious. Now, why does the Torah tell us Goyim are fighting? Why does the Torah have to tell us who was victorious? Rashi says, to tell us that they were very mighty. Nevertheless, Avram did not hesitate to pursue them. Pasuk Yud, the valley of Siddim was composed of many clay pits. And the kings of Sodom and Amorah fled, and they fell there. And the survivors, the other kings, fled to a mountain. Now, what does it mean, Be'erus Chemer? Many, many pits. Rashi says, Be'erus Harba HaYusham. There were many pits there. Why? Because from there, they would take earth for the clay for the building. And the Medrash says, the Medrash says that the clay was needed in them. In other words, in the pit. And a miracle happened that the king of Sodom, he escaped from there. Because some of the nations did not believe that Avram had been saved from Or Kasdim with the fiery furnace. They said, impossible for such a story to happen. So what happened? Once they saw what happened to the king, that he fell in and he was still saved, they believed in Avram retroactively. Now, Hara Nasu, what does it mean they fled on the mountain? So this is a Diktuk Rashi. Lahar Nasu, meaning they fled to a mountain. Kimoi, Lahar, as the word Hara is the same as Lahar. As Rashi said a few times, any word that requires a lamed in the beginning may have a hey added at the end instead. There's a chiluk there, shehei shebesefer teva medes b'makom lamed shbereisha. There's a difference between hara and hahara. For the hey at the end of the word takes place of the lamed at the beginning of the word. But it does not take the place of a lamed vowelized with a patach under it. Now hara is like lehar or like elahar to a mountain, but it does not specify which mountain. Because every person fled to whichever mountain he found first. So now, when the letter hey is placed at the beginning by writing hahara or hamidbara, it's interpreted as elahar or like lehahar to the mountain, and it refers to the mountain that is known and specified in this chapter. Pasuk Yud Aleph. The pasuk says, "Vayikhu es kol lechush steim, va'amira es kol ocholon vayilchu." They took all the possessions of Steim and Amira and all their food, and they departed. Vayikhu es Loit ves tuchushay. They took Loit and his possessions. Ben Achi Avram vayilchu, who was the nephew of Avram. He was literally means the son of Avram's brother Haran. And vayilchu hu yeshiv b'steim, and they departed, and he was living in Sedem. Rashi says, why does the Torah tell us that? Hu yeshiv b'steim migarm lezeis. What caused him to be taken in captivity is yeshivasi b'steim, is because he lived in Steim. Yud Gimel vayavay hapalit, and the literally means the refugee came. We're going to see who that is. Vayagid Avram, and he told Avram, who was Avram ha'ivri, who was the Hebrew, which means he lived on the other side of the river. He was living in the plain of Mamre, the Ameri, Achi Eshke, Achi Oner, and the brother of Eshke and the brother of Oner, Vehim Bali Bris Avram, and they were Avram's Bali Bris, and we're going to see exactly what that means. Rashi says, what does it mean the refugee came? If he pshute is egg, according to the simple explanation, this is egg melech habashad. Shepalat min ha-mechama, that he escaped from the battle. Ushakasov ben rak oig nishar miyasar defaim. This is what it says. Only oig survived from the rest of the defaim. Zeh nishar shlehargu amrafel v'chavidev yishiku arafaim b'ashter iskarnaim. And which means that Amrafel and his allies did not kill him when he struck Refaim and Ashter and Iskarnaim. Adchuma medrash bereshis Rabba Tanchuma. This is the Medrash Tanchuma. Now, Medrash Rabba Za'ig. Now, according to the Medrash Rabba, it's also Ig. What does it mean? Why is it called Palit? Shepalit mided hamabul. Not that he escaped the war, but he escaped the flood. So Rashi says first, this is the meaning from the rest of the Refaim, and the Nephilim were on the earth. And Oig really intended, why did he care Oig? Because he wanted Avram to be killed, and he wanted to marry Sarah. Ha'ivri, why is he called the Hebrew? Shabam, Ever Hanar, because he came from the other side of the Euphrates River. Bali Bris Avram, Shekarsim Bris, means that, literally it means the masters of Avram's covenant, because they made him a covenant with him. Avram heard that his nephew was taken captivity. And he armed his trained men, those born in his house, who 318 people, and they pursued these kings till dawn. Rashi says, Vayorik, what does it mean? And he armed, as the Targum says, Vazaris. And he armed. And similarly, which it says, and I will arm myself with my sword against you. I will arm myself with my sword, and arm yourself with a spear and an axe. Chanicha, what's chanicha? It says chanchiksiv. It's written chanicha in a singular. Or zeh. Now, why does it say chanichav singular? To tell us that Eliezer shechinchi lemitzchis v'uloshen hascholas knisas ha'adam oikli l'umanis shu asid lamivei. This refers to Eliezer, whom he had trained to perform the commandments, and chanichav is an expression of initiation, the beginning of entrance of a person or utensil to the craft of which he is destined to remain. V'chein chanech lenar, similarly, train a child. Chanukas ha-mizbeach, the dedication of the mizbeach. Chanukas habayis, the laz keren loy, we call it like a instnar, which is like the instructor to train. Now it says 18. Rashi says, Rabbi Shloimy Amru, Eliezer levade hoya. Chacham say that Eliezer really it was Avram and Eliezer. So what does it mean? 318. Huminyan gematria shoshmei. 318 is the numerical value of Eliezer's name. Adon. What does it mean till done? Sham tashash keiche. There he became weak. Why did Avram Avinu become weak? Shira shasidim banav lahamid sham egel, because he saw that the Yidden are going to serve the egel avodah zarah, and that's why he became weak. Tesvov. Vayichalek aleim lailahu ba'avodah vayakim. He divided himself against them at night, he and his servants, and he struck them. Vayidafim at choiva. He pursued them until choiva asher midismel lamosik, which is the left of Damascus. Actually says, what does it mean? He divided himself against them. Shutei Saras HaMikra, according to the simple explanation, you have to rearrange the meaning, or the pasuk, Vayichalek hu v'avadim aleim laila, and he divided himself, he and his servants, upon a night. This is like customary for pursuers who divide themselves after they're pursued when they flee. Zelakan, one here and one there. Laila, what does it mean? At night, after nightfall, he did not refrain from pursuing them. The Medrash says, that the night was divided, and the first part of the night there was a nes. And the second half was preserved for the miracle of Makas Becheres. The miracle of the midnight in Mitzrayim. Ad Chayva, what's Chayva? In Makim Sheshmei Chayva. There's no place called Chayva. The Don Keira Chayva. Don is called Chayva. Hashem Avodah Zarah Shasidim Liyasham, because of the Avodah Zarah which would be practiced there in the future. Pasuk Dezayim Vayosheves Kol HaRechush, and he took back, he restored it, all the possession. And also laid in his brother and his possession, also he got back. And also the woman and the people. Pasuk Yid Zayin Vayitzim Melech Stem Lekrose, and the king of Stem came out and towards him. After his return from striking Kidleimer, and the Malachim who were with him, the kings that were with him, El Emek Shvei, to the Emek of Shavei, who Emek HaMelech, which is the valley of the king. So Rashi Emek Shavei Kach Shmei, this is the name Ketargume LeMeishar Mefanei, as the Targum says, to the clear plain. Panu Milonis and Mikol Mishel, it was clear of trees and any obstacle. Emek HaMelech, what does it mean? The valley of the king. Base Reisa the Malka Beis Ris, this is the king's race course. Echashu Shleishim Konim, one race course was 30 rods long. This was designated to the king to play there. But the Medrash says, he explains that it was a valley where all the nations concurred, and crowned Avram over them as a prince of Hashem, as an officer. Pasuk Yidches Malki Tzedek Melech Shalom, and Malki Tzedek the king of Shalom, Haitzi Lechem Yayin, brought out bread and wine, Uchayin the El Elyain, and he was a king to the Most High. Malki Tzedek, Rashi says, Mikra Acher Hu Sheben Neach. The Medrash says that this was Shem, the son of Neach. Lechem Yayin, bread and wine. Hach Oisim Ligiyah Melchama. This is done to those who fought in Melchama. Herelei Shem Beliba Alav Al Shahareg as Manav. Melchizedek demonstrated that he had no grudge against Avram for killing his kids. And according to the Medrash, he hinted to him about the Nesachim, the Menachis and the Nesachim, which Avram's children will bring in Yerushalayim in the Beis HaMikdash. Amen. Ken Yiratzin. Pasuk Chitas. And he benched him and said, Baruch Avram Le'el Elyain, benched be Avram to the Most High God, who possesses heaven and earth. So Rashi, the maker of the heaven and earth. By making them, he acquired them to be his. And blessed be the Most High Hashem, who has delivered your adversaries into your hand. And he gave Meiser to Melchizedek. Rashi Asher Migan Asher Hizger, which means who has delivered. V'chein amagencha Yisrael, and I should deliver you, O Israel. Vayitin lei Avram Meiser mikol ashalei. Avram gave Melchizedek Meiser from all that was his. Because Abimelech was a kohen.